Yo, beautiful human. Adam Lambert's going to be here in studio any second. Today's interview being delivered to you by GoPuff. Hello. They are redoing how we get things delivered, baby. Whatever you need, delivered to your home or to your studio or to you on a street corner. Pretty much instantly. Wherever you are, GoPuff will come to you with whatever you need. Plus, I'll help you save some money. We all love saving money. Zach10. Use the code when you're checking out, and you can save $10 on your first 2 orders. Pretty big deal, right? It is. It's a big deal. And so is Adam Lambert. Brand new album, High Drama. If you haven't listened to it, there's going to be a link in the description below. But let's go. Here he is. By the way, hello, beautiful human. I am Zach. That is Dana. Welcome to the studio. Adam Lambert.
Yes.
Hi. I like that you looked around for some.
Hello. Where's the audience?
They're there. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
It is funny. And we were just discussing just substances, alcohol, cannabis. I don't want to say I'm recently done with drinking, but it's been 4 or 5 weeks that I haven't had a drink, and I'm just reevaluating my relationship with it.
Do you know, I have a lot of friends recently that are in that same boat. A lot of people are sort of reacclimating themselves to booze.
It's weird.
Probably because, the pandemic, we were all sitting around doing nothing. I mean, there wasn't much to do. Let's drink. I did a fair amount of that.
I did a lot of nothing. I did a lot of vegging. I did a lot of, drinking. Definitely a lot of smoking. Just did a lot of nothing.
Yeah.
God, so sad.
Some of it was fun. I have to say, there was a point where I was like, I'm chilling. I like that I have no responsibilities or expectations. But then it got old, after about 2 months.
Exactly.
Yeah, but you also put out an album right before the pandemic hit, so that screwed it all up.
That was the beginning of the pandemic was depressing for many. Obviously the pandemic was sad and depressing itself. And then this album, we literally were ramping up all this energy and expectation, and the album came out literally the week everything got canceled. And it was I had to mourn it. It was like a death. It was like this thing that I had, put so much time and effort into just to kind of be just dead, dead in the water. But the thing about it is that I will say so on a business perspective, the project sort of died, the campaign died. I was going to go on tour. I was going to do all these appearances, but the album's still good. I still love the album. I'm really proud of it. I'm proud of what was created.
Well, so 2 things, because we're here talking about a new project that's a covers album.
Yep.
So do you feel like this music that was supposed to come out, or it did come out pre-pandemic but didn't get its shine, could eventually one day find its shine? Would you ever do a re-release on something like that?
I don't know. That's a good idea. I mean, I think that I do feel really proud of it as a musician. I think it's the most sort of in control of a project I've ever been. I had, it was on an independent label. So it was just
really cool.
It was a different experience than what I've had, because I've done label albums, major label albums thus far. So it was a different experience. It was just a little more free. It was a little more chill. It was cheaper for that reason, but it was, I don't know. I got together with some amazing producers and just got to explore. So I felt like I had a lot of freedom in it. And I got to make exactly what I wanted to make, which was really cool.
What is the transition like going from something like that to a covers album where you do have control, but you don't control the story?
Well, it's different. Obviously the whole major label thing, they're amazing because they can pay for some shit. You can get your stuff out there in a different way. It's just a different experience. I think there's some compromise involved, but I've had a great time putting this together. I mean, I got signed over at Warner UK, so in London. The team there is really chill. They're really sweet. And I think that my experience on Velvet, the last album, working really hard in the studio, more than just the vocals and the songwriting, but I was also working with the producers more than I ever have, really in the production. I think that taught me a lot. So when we were approaching this project, obviously I didn't write the songs, but I still got to create this sonic world, and I still got to use my creativity with these producers based on what I learned. So I don't know. I feel like it's all a forward motion journey.
I totally understand that.
You know
because,
what I mean?
yeah, the right way to cover a song, by the way, is to make it your own.
Yeah.
So how do you start that process? And like, also, how do you identify songs that you want to utilize in this album, right? Because you're still trying to tell a story, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely like a good challenge when we decided to do it. I was like, yeah, okay. The list was really long. It was like pages. Then I started narrowing it down based on some conversations. You know, my team had some suggestions that we took on. And the criteria that I followed was like, okay, is it something that I can relate to in my life? Like, could I sing this from my experience? Also, it had to be something I could reinvent, like drastically, or else it didn't really belong on the album. And then thirdly, it's just like a good song, good melody, you know? I think sonically what I kind of wanted to go for was rock and roll, like all forms of it, you know, the rock star fantasy. And, you know, my first album sort of was pop rock, and I've done all my Queen stuff for the last decade, but I've also explored a lot of other genres and sort of vibes. And I really wanted to kind of come back to my DNA, like fully on this one. And just do all these different kind of rock branches, you know, whether it's more electronic rock or glam rock from the 70s or sort of modern pop rock, funk, like all these little like kind of break-offs of the genre. That's where we went. It was really fun.
Your Billie Eilish cover was really great.
Thank you.
You kind of kept, I don't know the proper term, like cadence or phrasing. Like you kept her, like tone is not necessarily, you get what I'm saying? Like the same way she kind of like, I don't know. It was the right amount of very slightly same, but the most different, if that makes any sense.
Thanks. Thank you.
It was great.
That's what I love about Billie is that she's like super understated. It's really, she pulls you in, you know? And I have the history of being kind of over the top and really loud and wild. And with that song, I was like, well, we can still make a grand track, but like I am going to keep it a little more grounded and kind of like laid back, the approach to it. And also the key that we put it in is a bit lower than a lot of my other stuff, just because I wanted it to feel a little more like introspective.
The story applies to you getting older.
Well, that's what I love about the song is that I think anybody can relate to that song.
Yeah.
She was 20 when she put that album
Crazy.
out?
That's what I was thinking.
41. I feel the exact same way.
Yeah.
I think a 90-year-old would feel the same way.
Totally.
It's a really good lyric.
It's
really good. So I was like, I need to do this song.
It's really wild. That's literally what I was thinking when I was listening to it.
And that's one of the more obscure songs. It's not a big hit. It's not a big single. And that's also what drew me to it. I was like, I don't want to just do the obvious expected thing on this album. I want to like take some chances and surprise people and keep people guessing and challenge myself.
You know, not surprised to see Holding Out for a Hero on there, but really happy. Very happy.
That was it's such a guilty pleasure song.
Yeah, it's so fucking good.
It's so guilty pleasure. And it's like, I remember hearing that when I was a kid and just, it's kind of corny, but it's also like Bonnie Tyler's vocal is so good in the original. She sings the shit out of that song.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what always got me. I'm like, oh, she's got so much urgency and like power. And it's kind of been in like the consciousness a bit. Like it was in that episode of Euphoria.
Yeah.
And I had some friends in that scene and I was like, this is brilliant. The song is so funny. And that's the thing, like the album and my whole thing is like, I want to be able to have fun. You know, it's not always too serious. And Holding Out for a Hero for me is like, it's melodramatic, but it's camp, you know?
It is. But it's also accurate. I mean, we all are holding out for that someone.
We are. We absolutely are, especially in the times we're living in now. Like, where are all the good motherfuckers? You know, like what's going on?
Where are they at?
Yeah.
In so many different areas. Where are they at?
Yeah, where are they at?
Didn't you find one?
I did, yes. I found one. I found a few along the way over my lifetime. Yeah. And I also like, I want to be a hero for people sometimes. Like, even though it's scary and even though I don't always feel like I deserve it, like I have a little imposter syndrome, but I like the idea of giving people hope and, you know, encouragement and some light, you know?
In doing that for others, it does do it for you too.
Absolutely. 100%.
So are there covers that exist that should have been on this album or could have been on this album that didn't make it?
There's some on the list that I thought were cool, that I'd like to visit at some point, but we didn't like record anything that we threw out because we were trying to kind of be efficient and not waste time.
But where do you start with it? Like, how do you, like, what is the process like? Obviously, you pick the song, but from there, where do you do it
it's like
acoustically?
with this album, it was like I had some producers that I really wanted to work with again, like Tommy English, who I worked on Velvet with. I really wanted to get back in the studio with him because I had such a nice time working with him. And so that was sort of like the first person I put forward, and that was actually the beginning of the process. We did 3 songs together, and that was the first 3 that were done. And then I went over to the UK and did the rest over there.
Well, but are you going for like, do you hear in your head how you want to change it?
Some of them, yeah. Like some of them I knew, like, okay, like with West Coast, the Lana Del Rey one, I was listening to that song. It's my favorite Lana song. And I was like, hearing kind of that bluesy guitar in it, and I was like, oh, you know what? If we like plug this in and make it really like heavy, all of a sudden it's like a Led Zeppelin song.
Totally.
Like it's kind of like 70s metal, you know what I mean? And so I said that to Tommy, and he was like, got it. And we just started jamming on it, and he brought in a great bass player and a drummer, and it was like very organic.
Is there any nerves involved with covering somebody else's song?
No, I don't think so. I mean, Boy George and I are friends, and I do Do You Really Want to Hurt Me on this album, and I didn't tell him I was going to try it until I was done with it, because I wanted to make sure that it was like it was good, and then I sent it to him, and he liked it a lot. So I was definitely a little bit like, ooh, I hope he's okay with it, you know?
That's like a really weird thing.
Yeah, and
Right?
and we really drastically changed that one. It's like fully rearranged.
I mean, yeah, you got to be a little scared to share that.
I didn't know what he was going to say, but he's a really honest guy. So I know that if he says he likes it, he likes it.
Do you prepare for him to tell you that it sucks?
I was hoping for the best. I was like, oh. And plus I was like, I think this is good. I think we did a good job, you know?
Have you taken anything from like breathing? I'm like trying to figure out the right way to phrase it. Like, you are Queen now, right? Like, you are this new era of what Queen is. And I listened to the live album, the most recent that came
Yeah.
out. Fucking incredible.
I was so excited that we got to put that out.
So fucking good.
Thanks.
You should be so proud.
Thanks. I am. It's nice to have something to sort of commemorate the 10 years that we've been working together, you know, something on that you can listen to.
I can't believe it's been 10 years.
That's crazy.
I know. Maybe more, maybe 12, maybe 11. I don't know, something like that.
Holy shit.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
That's,
It's on and off, obviously. Like
Yeah.
we've done a handful of tours, and they're only usually about 6 to 8 weeks at a time. So it's not like we're constantly on tour. This is something that's funny, like friends and fans and family, the 3 Fs. Every time I'm like talking to someone and catching up with like someone that I haven't talked to in a while, they're like, oh, so you're on tour? And I'm like, I'm not always on tour. It's not like a consistent, like I'm not always touring. I don't think I would be able to.
I mean, there's a real pressure, obviously, in carrying that mantle and keeping it going. Is there anything you like learn and from doing that and working with Queen for the last dozen or so years that you actually applied to covering songs today?
For sure. I think if I look back on like from when I started with them to sort of what we're doing now, I think I've grown up a bit, like as a singer, as a performer. Like I feel less is more sometimes now, which is something that I didn't quite have as much of a grasp on when I was younger.
Yeah.
I think in the beginning I was kind of like, look what I can do, you know, like trying to do every high note, every acrobatic thing I could do with every melody, put new notes in, riffs, runs. And now I'm kind of like, you know what, if the emotion calls for it, like if there's a climax of a song where it calls for that, I'll do it because it feels like it needs some extra juice. But I think as a musician, I'm more like comfortable just relying on a good melody. You know what I mean? I don't need to do all this extra shit. I think that's something it's like a maturity thing. And a comfort thing.
Is it confidence?
Confidence, comfort, yeah, whatever you want to call it. It's like having some ownership over what I do on stage and not as in need of validation.
Did it take you a while to get comfortable working with Queen and feeling like it was your own?
In the beginning, I was pretty like, it was intense. Like, I think when they asked me to start touring with them, I immediately said yes, because I was like, this is an opportunity of a lifetime.
Do you audition or do they just see you?
No, that we worked. They did the finale of American Idol.
That's right.
And that's where we met, and they just asked after that, which was like, I was gagged. I was like, what? And the first couple of shows were like really scary because I felt underprepared. I didn't get that much rehearsal with them. They didn't need it.
Yeah.
They know the songs.
So is it you just to like a track of theirs that they record for you?
Say it again?
Is it you rehearsing to a track that they record for you?
No, we
or
got
what?
together. I mean, we rehearsed for like a week. Like,
That's still like,
yeah, we rehearsed for a week, and
what?
then I did a 2-hour show in which Elton John was the opening act.
okay, shut the
in
fuck
the
up.
Ukraine.
This is crazy.
Like, it's not the Ukraine, in Ukraine. For like the very first show we did, it was for like, I think it was for 500,000 people.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was
Okay.
Crazy. It was crazy.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
That's.
I was nervous for that. I was nervous.
Is there like a moment in that, like, where you realize, like, that music, it's bigger than everything in anything. Like there's no.
It's so iconic. Yeah.
There'll never be another Queen, you know?
And it's almost like I knew the Queen songs before I knew who Queen were.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, like growing up, like hearing "We Will Rock You" in like a stadium or Bohemian Rhapsody. It's like, you know, the songs are so iconic. And then it's like, as I got a little older and started like, this was like in my early 20s, I started kind of diving into like going back and like learning about bands and stuff because I was all into it. That's when I really understood who Freddie was. Like later.
Now that you've been with the band for 10 years, if you had the opportunity to talk to Freddie, like what would you ask him or what would you talk to him about?
Oh man. I'd want to like have a good cocktail. Like I'd want to like sit down and drink with him. I don't know. I would ask him. I would want to know everything. I just would pick his brain. I'd want to know like where these songs came from, what inspired the songs. I'd want to know about like, I'd want to know everything. I would want to know like how he lost his virginity. Like I would ask everything. I would like do the whole, I would ask about his career and his personal life. I would be really nosy. Really nosy.
Is it fair to say that this music, like, there could potentially be another you 50 years down the line carrying the mantle again and keeping these songs alive?
That's true.
That's crazy.
I hope someone does. I mean, they're great songs.
I mean, I think the difference is you get to tour with the actual band in 50 years.
It's really nice.
Yeah.
And they're really cool. I've learned a lot from them, not only like as a performer and being on stage with them, but also just they're very smart. They've been through it. They're rock stars, you know? They're like from the golden era of music.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of like, it's such a fantasy, you know. That's the 70s is like my favorite decade musically, and it's just hearing stories. Oh yeah, we hung out with Bowie that night. I'm like, that's so crazy, you know.
Do you feel like you're part of the band after all these years, or are you always going to feel like you're just filling a role?
It's a little bit of both. I mean, I think it feels like a family. Like we all like we're really comfortable with each other, and it's a lovely like rapport. But I also am very aware of the fact that like I didn't create these songs. These songs existed before I was born. Some of them, the fans. I am a guest in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Like I recognize that, and I appreciate it, and I try to go into it every show like kind of with that in mind, because it's important to keep that in mind, especially because the audience, you know, especially when it first started, when we were at the beginning of this journey, it was like I was being looked at with some scrutiny. Like people were like, I don't know, can he? And that's important to like keep in mind, because you don't want to be a cocky asshole to the fans, you know. It's a respect thing. And it's respecting Freddie, and it's respecting their memory of Freddie, and respecting the legacy.
How do you balance that with making it your own?
Tequila? A couple drinks? I don't know. I don't know. It took me a while to kind of figure it out. At the beginning I was like, ugh, but it just kind of fell into place, I think. And it was, you know, being on tour, it's like you let's do another show. You kind of get multiple chances to sort of find your footing, you know? So it was nice.
How many shows did you do in a week?
It depends on the tour. Like a lot of times I don't even know how to measure it in weeks. It's usually like you do like 35 shows total over the course of like 6 weeks, and it's like
Wow.
something like that. And it's like, okay, you do 2 in a row and then you have a day off. Then you might do 3 in a row and you have a day off. Maybe you do 1 and a day off. Like, it's, yeah.
Have you guys done a Vegas residency?
Yeah, we did.
You did. Okay.
Yeah, we did it at the Park MGM.
Okay. I was like, that makes
a couple
perfect
years
sense.
ago. It was really fun. It was like a month. It was really fun.
Do you consider when you're singing those songs, do you consider those covers as well?
In a way, although I get to play them with the band, so it's kind of like, I don't know. It's kind of both in a way. But at the same time, like this cover album is me changing like the entire arrangement of songs. When I'm on tour with Queen, it's like we're doing the traditional as they were on the record or how they've been playing them live. We're doing it that way, like OG.
Now, when you're putting together your own covers album, does it make it easier that the lyrics are already written, or is that just another, like, can you focus more on the production in that way because you don't have to worry about writing songs?
Well, I think in terms of like reinventing the track, I think it takes some of the pressure away because the song's already there and you know it's good.
Yeah.
And you know what it is. I think when I'm songwriting, it's such an abstract art because you're working. I usually songwrite with like another person or 2 people, and it's like you're slowly piecing together like a puzzle almost that you have in your head.
Mm-hmm.
But with a song that's already written, it's obviously that part's already done. So yeah, it does let you focus more on the way it sounds. For me as a singer, it lets me focus more on interpretation. When you already know a melody, it gives you a lot more, I don't know how to describe it. It gives you space to sort of editorialize on something that's already there, I guess is the way I would put it, as opposed to like coming up with it from scratch.
Yeah.
Because when I do like new songs, a lot of times like the first demo sounds a little clunky. Like it's not as like fluid.
Polished?
Yeah. Like even the performance, it's like not as, it's like more, paint by numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And then the more you know the song, the more like in your body it gets and the more natural it is.
How many takes will you give these covers in the studio?
How many takes?
Yeah, like until you get it right.
I don't know. I mean, it's usually like I like to do a lot of takes when I record. I like let's do it again. Let's do it again. Although I will say, and I will brag that the recording of West Coast is 1 take.
Whoa.
Yeah. It was 1 take.
What was different in the room at that moment?
We had done the other 2 songs already over the previous week or so, and my voice was really tired. So I kind of thought, okay, let's get our arrangement down and I'll just put a scratch vocal in as like a placeholder and I'll come back like in a couple weeks and we'll sing it for real. So I was kind of like not bothered and just went for it, and sometimes that's the best.
Wow.
Yeah.
And did you even try to record it again or just?
Once Tommy had it kind of stitched together, he sent it to me and I'm like, sounds pretty cool. I don't know if I would change anything. And he was like, yeah, it's good. I like it.
Sick.
Yeah.
Would you be pissed if Lana Del Rey was like, I don't vibe with this?
No, it's not her style of music. It's like the style is not her style. I would hope she would like it.
Yeah.
She wrote it. It's her song, Also, whoever writes the song, they're still getting the money.
Yeah. I always wondered the economics on that are not great, right?
Yeah, it's funny because a lot of people are like, well, did you get permission? I'm like, you don't actually need permission.
Yeah.
But you have to send them money,
Totally.
They get paid because it's publishing.
So I was going to ask about that. You don't need to go to all these artists and ask for approval. You can just kind of pick any song you want and cover it.
Only interpolations or like features or like a sample that you need.
If you
approval.
change the song, you have to have permission to do that. But if you keep it as written, like the published song, no, anybody can cover anything.
Interesting.
Yeah, but they own the publishing.
Yeah,
so,
they make all the money.
Yeah.
So you go into this album kind of knowing it's not an album you're going to make a ton of money on.
Yeah, and that wasn't the goal. It was like really, I'm working on another project that I'll get into in a minute, but that I started after I got over the death of my last album during the pandemic.
This was like an in-betweener.
This was something. So I'm working on this other project that's a lot longer of a timeline, and we got into this year, and I was just like, this last year, after the Queen tour, it was sort of like, let's just do something to get some music out to fans. Like I want to put something out. I want to sing. I want to release some music, and this was the idea. This was the way to do it. This was to do something quick. kind of feel good. You know?
They're great.
Yeah, it's that. I mean, the other project I'm working on is a musical.
Oh, what the fuck?
Yeah, I'm working on this musical. I'm not like totally ready to like, reveal what it's about yet, but I can say it's based on a true story, and it takes place in the 70s, which is my favorite, in New York, and it's very queer and very glam and disco and rock and folk and all the music, all the genres of the 70s. It's all sort of in there.
Sick.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So how do you want to get this out? Is this a stage production? Is this a
Well,
movie?
it's going to be a concept album first.
Oh, cool.
So like back in the day, like the Who, you know, the band The Who, they did Tommy, which was like a rock opera.
Totally.
And it was like a story with different characters, but it was all sung by the band.
Meatloaf did the same thing.
Meatloaf
right?
did it. And then also even into the musical theater thing, like Jesus Christ Superstar, when that was a concept album before it was ever a stage production or anything. And they had like singers from bands come and sing the parts. So I'm going to release it as like a concept album with me, maybe a couple guests. And then the plan is to adapt it for the stage.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, I'm really excited.
That's
or
really
the screen.
fucking
I mean,
cool.
we don't know.
Both eventually.
Yeah, everything.
Knock on wood. Knock on that log.
Is it a job that you'd want to take on yourself as like one of the stars of the show? If it is,
I don't think so. Actually, I'm actually having a really good time just creating it.
Adam, who can play the roles better than you though?
Well, that's the thing. None of the roles are actually quite me. It's because it's based on a true story. So it's. I don't see myself necessarily. One of the characters I could see myself in, but I'm too old to play him. It's like me when I was much younger. So
Isn't that fun though to do something for somebody else, right? Like to do something that's not attached to your. It is attached to your being because it's your baby and it's your project, but it's not.
I'm
It's
going to
not you.
perform the songs on my album.
Yeah.
And I'll be able to perform them anywhere, you know what I mean, as songs. So it's still, I'm still creating and still performing it, but it'll be really fun to put it together as a musical and be part of the creative team and be part of the person trying to make the vision happen. I've done theater since I was a kid and I love it. And I miss it. And I've done both sides. I've been on stage and I've directed when I was younger and all this stuff. So it'll be really fun to like go back and sort of help shape something.
It's cool.
Yeah, I'm really excited.
What's the timeline on this? Like, where are you in the process?
It takes a while. I mean, I wrote during the pandemic after the album funeral.
Rest in peace, Velvet.
Yeah, after
It's still alive, and you can listen to it
still
all on Amazon Music. There's a link in the description
that is true.
below.
It's still a great album.
Yeah, it's fucking spectacular.
I just couldn't get out there to really share it. But
Yeah, there's people, pandemic.
Yeah.
Heard of her?
Yeah, exactly. So once that was sort of the dust settled from that and I got over it, it was I just started doing Zoom writing sessions with producers and co-writers, and we have about like 20 something songs already.
Damn.
So it's like the score of the musical is sort of like it's in focus, but it's not fully stitched together yet.
Is it
you
your
know?
story or?
No, it's based on somebody.
Cool.
It's not me.
Do you get like their rights? What do you do?
Yeah.
Sick.
Yeah, life rights.
So you just what do you interview this person? Like, what's the process?
Oh, the person's no longer with us. They've passed on.
Got it. So you're just consuming information that exists about them.
I want to tell you all about it, but I can't
know.
yet. I'm not ready. But it's really cool. It's really, really cool. I think we're gonna start talking about it soon.
Well,
Soon.
you know where to find us.
Yeah. So I have a playwright that's writing the script right now that I'm working with. We have a great team. Like the table is set,
Yeah.
and now it's being cooked. The meal.
Sick.
Yeah.
And then you pull together rich people, they produce it, right? There's a whole process.
Everyone's on already. It's great.
Look at you.
The whole
It's
team
great,
ready to go.
yeah.
Get all those.
I'm really excited.
Get all
Yeah.
those rich gays to throw in some money to produce it for the great
Some
way.
high-end gays.
Yeah, they fucking pull their money for some crazy shit. We see you. I see them shows you put on fucking Broadway.
These are some high-end gays.
That's really fucking amazing.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Thank you.
That's really
Yeah.
mazel tov.
So I'm hoping that the album is done, or like that an album is done for this like next year at some point.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. I'm really excited.
But by the way, you also got to listen to this covers project. Can you explain the name to me? Like
High drama.
yeah, but is that attached to the songs? Is it attached
Yeah,
to
it
the
was
feeling
kind
you
of
get?
like it's very on the nose. Like I was sitting with the head of the label in the UK, and we were talking about sort of the approach that we were going to take in how to cover these songs. And I was like, yeah, I just kind of want to inject them with like some, it's very high drama. And he looked at me and he was like, there's your album title.
Done.
And I'm like, yeah, that's a good album title. Okay, great.
Damn.
We're going to try to make the process as low drama as possible, but
But the product.
but the product has drama. It has theatrics,
So that's really the goal at the top of this. start of
Yeah,
this?
once that the title was picked, I'm like, well, everything has to live up to the name,
Yeah.
It all has to sort of have some drama. But that's sort of, I think that's how I approach things.
Oh yes, this is the fucking first time we all saw you.
Yeah.
That's what people want from you.
Yeah. That's my thing.
And by us, I mean like the world back in like when people still watched
2009.
television. Holy shit!
Do you
Do
watch
you know
it?
that was 14 years ago?
It's sick.
14.
Yeah, because I've been on the radio for like 15, 16, and I remember so vividly watching your season of American Idol and then also watching you blow up. It was Interscope, right? Or RCA? What was your
RCA, yeah.
RCA. I remember, oh my God. Jesse Maldonado would parade you properly around New York City. These crazy people. I remember so vividly everything that followed. I mean, it was a crazy time, right?
It was wild. I mean, the music industry was so different.
Oh,
back
yeah.
then. I mean, it was like, I went on Idol. I've been out as a gay man since I was like 18.
Fucking
right?
amazing.
And so I was like, I've spent my 20s in LA living it up. I mean, I did my thing. I liked to party. and I had fun, and I was, I like to dress up and go to crazy clubs and all this stuff. And I was in a band, and I did all this Burning Man and all these crazy things. And then I auditioned for American Idol at 27. And so I had like lived and been out and proud, and I'd gotten over all of my like, any sort of shame or discomfort in who I was. I was like really settled, in my identity. And then doing the show, obviously right at the beginning, there were these photos that were not leaked, but found from a social networking, from some tribe something, of me and my ex-boyfriend, like in like full club kid drag making out. And they were like, is this you? I'm like, yeah, it's me. So that was the one time I did any sort of press facing thing before the show. These photos had been out. They asked, I'm like, yeah, that's me. What's the
problem?
Is there a question? And then I went and did the show. And then towards the end of the show, and while you're on the show, you can't do any press. They don't let you. They didn't used to anyway. And so I'm like doing the show, doing my thing. No one on the show is asking me who I'm sleeping with. Ryan Seacrest didn't, do you suck dick? No. I mean, this wasn't part of the conversation. It was like I was there to sing and entertain people. So I did. And then towards the end, there was like a Entertainment Weekly article cover with my picture on it, which was a trip, and it's very surreal. And they were like, "We love this guy," which I was like, "No, thanks." But they're like, and it may or may not be because he's gay. And I'm like, oh my God, like it's a is he or isn't he thing. And I'm like, this is so silly. Because I'm not hiding. I was open the whole time with everybody on the set. The producers,
Everyone knew.
nah, it wasn't a secret, we just didn't talk about it. I don't know. It's so weird to think about it now, because now we know that like you sort of have to proclaim, where people want you to sort of proclaim your identity for the masses right away. And I guess looking back on it, I'm like, I guess I could have worn like a rainbow shirt or something. I don't know. I could have done something, but I didn't think about it.
How do you see that today? Do you think people should be coming out, should be making it aware to all those around them?
I think it's up to the person. I think some people, it's nice to have like examples and heroes and people that are bold and not afraid to be who they are. But it's also like up to the person. I feel like everyone's got their own journey with that stuff. You know what I mean? And everyone's got their own things attached to it. Some people have baggage that they need to sort through. Some people have families that aren't into it. Some people have religion. It's like, I think everybody's up to them.
Does your partying become worse when you get rich and famous?
Does my what?
Your partying become worse and you're like going out and clubbing and having fun?
I think in the beginning, I went a little wild there for the first couple of years. I was doing it. But now I think I'm a lot more chilled out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Also because my 41-year-old body is like, you can't do that
I
anymore.
was just gonna say you've been doing it since the dawn of time.
Yeah. Like the hangovers last a little longer.
Like,
So yeah.
and like it's physical being on stage, even
Yeah.
if you only do it for 6 weeks out of the fucking
Yeah,
year.
you have to be sort of conditioned. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also like here in LA, like I was in the nightlife for a long time,
Totally.
both before any sort of celebrity thing. And then once I was a celebrity, I was in the nightlife, and I've done it.
How did you enjoy going out in West Hollywood after
Every
you were
once
famous?
in a while. Yeah, for a little while. And then, I don't know.
Gets old.
It gets old. Yeah.
When you were first coming out of Idol, did anybody try to turn you into something you weren't? Did they try to say, hey, do this or do this? And you're just like, that's not who I am.
Not really try to turn me into it, but there were a lot of like closed doors. I think there were a lot of like obstacles. I felt like I had been a very expressive person before I got on Idol, and then I got on Idol and I was doing my thing and, still expressing myself, probably in a slightly more like palatable way because I was trying to get votes,
Yeah.
And I guess one thing that looking back on it now, the one thing that was sort of a blind spot for me was after I got off the show, I should have still been thinking, I'm trying to get votes. In terms of my career.
Yeah.
But I looked at Idol as this standalone, this game show. That's how I was like, this is a game show. This is a strategy. Yay, I got the runner up. Cool. And then, and I got signed to a record deal now, and I have a manager and an agent, and now I'm free and I can do whatever I want. Yeah, you can, but
You're still playing a game.
it's still a game, and people still have to like what you're doing. And I kind of like, I don't know if I was as crisp about that as it seems to me now.
At what point did you realize it was a game?
I realized that I wasn't playing the game quite the way I thought I should when I did the AMA performance, which was that was the night before my first single came out.
I remember that.
Yeah. And it was,
Oh my God. I remember that so
I got in so
vividly.
much trouble. It was crazy.
Wait, what happened in that performance?
It was the For Your Entertainment, which is the first single I put out.
Great song.
Yeah, Dr. Luke.
Everyone was like,
produced
this
it.
shit's going to be a hit. The
And
label's
that
like,
was
this shit's going to be a
and
hit.
The thing I had to fight was that one thing. Well, answer your last question. I think when I got off of Idol, the management company that gets you, they kind of thought, okay, we're going to do our typical like white guy with a guitar type thing. I don't play guitar.
Was it Jonathan Shank?
I don't know who that is. No.
What was the company back then?
Oh, 19.
19. It's still
Yeah.
19 today.
They're really nice people over there. They were so sweet, but they're used to doing a certain formula with people that came off the show. And I met with them and I was like, well, I don't really want to do that. I don't want to do like adult contemporary pop rock. I want to like do pop music. Like I want to do some edgy shit. I want to go for it. And I want to do a combination of like sort of, throwback classic rock things, but I also want it to be like now and dance and all that shit. And so that's what this song was. That's what For Your Entertainment was. It was Dr. Luke. It was pop. It was sexual. It was like, the lyrics are very much like, you don't know what you got into. I'm not what you think I am, kind of, it's pop music, right?
Yeah.
And so we did a video a couple weeks before, and it was sort of like bondage light fashion, It was like sexy club, dark vampire vibes, it was a very cool video. And then we had this performance scheduled, and I just felt like I had to like be wild. Like I was just feeling it. It was like, this is my moment. I'm on a award show stage. I had sat there and I watched I was towards the end of the show, and I'd seen like Rihanna up there. I saw Gaga, like all these like fabulous, like badass performances. And everything at that point was sort of like edgy and dark and dramatic. And I had some dancers on stage, and I got a little fresh with one of them. I, got like put his head towards my crotch, and then there was a dancer that I like, I think I smacked her ass or something, and then I made out with my bass player.
I remember this.
And
it was iconic.
And it was just like, we didn't rehearse it. It just happened.
So, is everyone surprised on stage?
Well, it kind of like I'm used to like freestyling. Like with music too. Like I like going off script and sort of just going. And that's not necessarily what TV likes. They don't love it when you do things that they're not ready for. So they got kind of upset, and there was like a parent Christian group that called in that was like, the children. And I was just like, what? What's the big deal? Like, I've seen performances like this for years. You guys are just mad because a gay guy did it. That's literally why you're mad.
True.
You're mad because there's a double standard.
Yeah. So do you regret it in the moment, or do you regret it at all today?
I don't regret it now. I think right afterward, when I realized, I didn't regret what I did, because I was like, what's the big deal? Like, in principle, I thought I had every right to do it. And I stood my ground and defended myself. And I was like, this is a double standard. And I remember I got pulled off of Good Morning America the next morning because it was the same network. And they were like pissed at me. So they yanked me for a little while. And then I did a different morning show, and they asked me about it. And I was like, well, like, what about Madonna and Britney and Christina years ago at the AMA or the VMAs? And what about, Prince, what he's done on stage, or Madonna or whatever? And they showed a clip of Christina and Britney and Madonna kissing. And then they cut to my clip of me kissing my bass player, and our mouths were blurred out. Like, we were censored. And I was just like, what's going on? Like, what is actually going on? And I looked at them, I'm like, well, you've proved my point. I don't really need to say anything else. Like,
yeah.
That's weird.
So in that moment, do you feel your team turning against you? Is anybody standing with you?
I think I was a little oblivious to some. I think I chose to sort of put my blinders up a little bit because I didn't really know how to process what was going on.
I get it.
I was just like, but I could feel it got a little icy. With certain people, not necessarily my management company, but the label were a little scared, because listen, this was going to affect sales, and I get it. I get where that's the business, So they were still invested in the project, and they weren't giving up, but the feet got cold, and certain avenues, like, close the door. There were certain radio people that just didn't want anything to do with it. They canned the song.
Yeah, I remember that.
They kind of like were about to push it and then just kind of took their foot off the gas and they went to another song, which was probably smart.
But that, again, like, that song is so good.
It is a good song.
It's so fucking good.
It's a good song. And the thing is that now I don't think that would happen. So this is what I'm saying is that the times have changed. Mm-hmm. Like, look at what Lil Nas X just did.
Yeah, but you're a part of the reason why, like, people can do those types of things. Like, you and artists that have come before you, not many, but there are a couple that have pushed those bounds and done things that I think, really and I think that
when people try things and you find out, oh, people aren't ready for this yet, that's what it was. It was just, I don't think the timing was right. Totally. And looking at, like, Lil Nas now, it's like, the time is right.
Well, I won't say you. Like, there were certain big record executives that compared the two. You
really?
Yeah, you and Nas totally in conversation.
Well, it was. It's funny because no one's ever actually really done that since on like an award show stage in America since that AMA performance.
100%.
First time anybody's like gone for it, which I was like, yeah. I was so excited, like seeing that performance that he did, and all the stuff that all the stunts that he's been playing. They're so funny. Mm-hmm. He's so funny. Like, I think he's genius.
Yeah.
And he doesn't give a shit. And he's like funny on Twitter. And I'm like, finally.
And it's 100% him. Like, he's such a genuine gift.
Yeah. I've met him twice now, and he's really cool.
Yeah, really a good one.
Yeah. Really good guy.
But as are you. Thank you for your iconic moments in culture history and also in history. A lot of work for the queer community. True. I joke, but it's real. It's 100%
it's unbelievable accurate. What's happened since then. Like, I'm so excited.
It's a whole different world.
It's so exciting to like know that I was part of a wave. I wasn't the only one. There was a bunch of us, but it was. I'm really my hands really like I'm really.
Are you gonna vote?
Am I Italian? Like, what's going? Like, what is this? Why do my hands do so much when I'm trying to talk? I should just set them down. I'm very like, what is going on? When you catch yourself.
I always hold something here to keep my arms down because if not, I catch myself talking with my hands too much.
I'm very with the hands, like I'm like sign language or something. I don't know. Anyway, I'll hold on. I'm very excited. I was part of a wave. Yeah, it's beautiful what's happening now. And it's also scary what's happening now in our country. Like, there's a lot of weird opposition. People, I mean, it's a sign that the conservatives are just freaked out. because we're actually like
The majority.
self-actualized and feeling good, of course they're freaked out,
Oh my God. Yeah. But also I do think I like choose to believe in the best in people and that we have the ability to choose love over hate and acceptance over isolation. And yeah,
I think
really do.
there's a lot of noise, but I think that in general, I think it's really exciting looking at like the generation coming up.
Yes.
There's a lot more openness and sort of inclusion and I feel like people are looking for how they're alike rather than how they're different. I hope at some point. I feel like we're doing a lot of like classifying and this identity and that identity, but that's necessary to understand like the
common
tapestry
threads.
of what we are. And then I think what the next wave will be is like, and everyone can be together, I
You're
hope.
100% accurate. Couldn't
Yeah.
agree more. And dude, I have an eye on the present, but I'm very much deeply focused on the future because that's what really ultimately matters.
Absolutely.
And you're spot fucking on, Adam Lambert. Spot on.
Thank you.
Listen to High Drama. Listen to all of Adam Lambert's music. Listen to the last album that didn't get enough love. Give Velvet love.
Velvet had to wear a mask.
Did he wear a velvet mask?
Velvet had to wear a mask, when it came out. It didn't get to full shine.
You can see her face. It's so funny. I just realized the other day I was getting my nails done. I was like, oh shit. I've been like getting my nails done by the same girl for a while and I really love her. Years. I realized I've never seen her fucking face.
Really?
Yes. I've never seen it. It was so fucking weird. I'm just staring at her. I'm like,
That's weird.
damn. What do you look like under there?
I had that when we were filming the first season of Starstruck in London, that show that I'm doing a show over there. And all the crew had masks on the whole time. And then I finally, like we were outside the building and I saw one of the production assistants that had been working with us.
You don't know them.
And I didn't know who she was. And she was like, Adam. And I'm like, wait, can you go like this? So I can just see your eyes like, oh, it's you, I know your eyes.
I know that top half.
I know that forehead.
It's crazy.
I don't know that forehead from anywhere.
Oh, thank God we're done with that.
Listen to Adam Lambert's music. His entire discography is available for you right now on Amazon Music. We're going to put a link in the description below. Final thoughts?
Do you think it's possible for a cover to be better than an original?
Oof. Good question.
It depends on the listener.
Good answer.
Yeah, well, it's true. I mean, it's like the beauty is in the eye of the beholder thing.
Yeah, it's
you
art.
know? Yeah.
Because I see you have Chandelier on there. I'm like, how do you ever top Sia's Chandelier?
Truth. Chandelier was one that the label suggested, and I was like, oof, I don't know if I should touch that.
Yeah.
Because I love Sia. She's amazing.
Yeah, but you did kill it, but also like that's.
I was like, okay, so how can I make it different? Because it's not as different as some of the other ones, but we were like, let's put some guitar in there and, give it some, and I'll wail the falsetto notes instead of singing them in my head voice. I'll give them full voice and we'll just change it up. So that's what we did. I hope she likes it.
I feel like she'll be listening.
I hope so.
She's out there.
I think everyone's actually been contacted at this point.
I was sick.
Yeah, and we've gotten nothing but positive feedback, so that's good.
Fuck yeah.
I mean, who's
Yeah.
going to say no to like your voice on their song?
Oh, thanks. I'm sure there's somebody that would say no to my voice, but
I mean, I did watch you on, what was it? Did you do Ordinary World on The Voice?
yeah.
Like, there's just some artists whose voices are so good that recordings don't do it justice.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like that ever happens to you where you're in a studio, you're like, I'm better live?
Sometimes it is better. Sometimes there's a vulnerability that comes across in live that you don't really get in the studio because the studio is
Yes.
so cleaned up.
That's what it is.
And also there is a magic that happens when you have a certain type of adrenaline in front of an audience. It gives like a charge to things that sometimes doesn't happen in the studio.
Okay, that explains it.
It's interesting. It's a mix because sometimes the studio sounds better because you're relaxed and you're not distracted and you're in the zone or whatever. So it's a mix. It's a mix of both. But that Ordinary World is such like an emotional song that like I've noticed in live situations when there's people in front of me, I can tap into like some other angle of it somehow. I don't know.
Yeah, that performance was
Thank you.
awesome.
Thank you.
Feel that energy and that
Yeah.
empathy and that like that.
There's something that I gotta say, like, I don't know if, I don't even know if I would consider myself like that spiritual of a person these days, but I have been more spiritual in my life and understood it. And, maybe it was the mushrooms, but I feel like when you're on stage in front of an audience, there's a collective like wave that happens where you can literally feel the audience like kind of pushing energy back to you, and you're putting it back. It's like an infinity symbol. It's like it's this like give and take thing that happens where you can get them really focused. It's kind of it's type of magic, really. It's like it's like alchemy. It's this. It sounds very frou-frou, but it's real. I've felt it so many times that when you're right in the zone, you can like. There's something really powerful about being able to sort of affect that many people at the same time.
Is that how you define a good show or a good performance?
Yeah. It's all about the audience, I think. I mean, obviously, I'm really hard on myself, and I'm a perfectionist, and sometimes I go off and get kind of stuck in my head, and I'm overanalyzing or criticizing myself. When you can put that part of your brain down and let that part be quiet and just be in the moment, that's when it's like the flow. Yeah.
Well, listen to Adam Lambert's music. All of it's available for you on Amazon Music, and maybe you'll go on tour, maybe?
We're going to do some like random shows, like scattered shows for sure.
Oh, sick.
For now, yeah.
Well, we'll put a link in the description below so you can go there to find out if there's any shows up and coming in your area. Anything else, Daniel?
I think we covered a lot here.
Good questions.
Fuck yeah.
Thanks for letting me ramble and rant.
Literally anytime. You're a great guest, and we really appreciate you always.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I was telling Carlos, who's behind the cameras, that you're a great guest and you're very entertaining.
Oh, thanks.
So.
Oh, and I didn't say, I was talking about Lil Nas, but I should probably also name check. I'm really proud of Kim Petras and Sam Smith
Yes.
We love
at the
them both.
Grammys. I'm very proud of them. And in general, the Grammys, there was so much queer representation this year. It's sick.
And the ratings were up.
Yeah.
Finally.
It's great.
Yeah.
Steve Lacy was amazing. Who else was there that was like, oh yeah, they're queer too? Like
Brandy Carlisle?
I mean, it's just
Omar
like
Apollo.
Oh yeah. I
Love him. Oh, love you.
It's just crazy what's happened. It's so crazy. And I'm just so happy that that I can like see the change.
It's special.
Yeah.
Adam Lambert,
Thank
thanks
you.
for being you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
High drama. Listen to it. Adam Lambert, everybody.
High drama. Thank you.